here because of the it wasn't coming through on YouTube though. I could tell because of the levels on here.
So does that mean?
I don't think Reed heard us sing.
I don't think Reed heard us sing.
All right, you want to give him a quick version?
I mean, are we recording though? Because I mean,
we are recording. We are recording on, but we're not recording the actual podcast.
So the podcast's not recording, but the YouTube is recording. Okay.
So really
we
quick.
didn't have levels when we started the YouTube stream.
Exactly.
People just saw our mouths moving and
exactly.
couldn't hear anything.
Exactly.
Okay. So it was like watching one of those dubbed over.
Shout out to Carl in the chat.
One of those dubbed over TV shows where like the lips are moving and like there's like only one word that actually comes out, but like it looks like they said like 1,000. I can't watch those shows and movies. I can't. Throws me the hell off. Like it really.
And actually, since Carl's in here, we could actually make it a double sing because his son Kyle turns 1 on March 6th. So coming up. So,
okay, but we'll have a show between now and then.
We will. So I guess we can sing that too.
Carl, we want to give individual attention. Yeah, we got to give individual attention here. And like today is Reed's actual birthday.
It is his actual birthday.
So next week we get Carl's.
Next week we'll sing to Kyle. This week we'll give a quick. We already did a version, but we'll do another quick version because that one didn't hit the actual airwaves. But hey, listen, I'm getting better.
Or worse.
I'm getting better at catching this stuff, though. You got to admit that. I'm getting a lot better at catching this stuff quick.
That you are, my friend.
Especially live. I'm not letting it get us off. We're boom, boom. We're getting right back to it.
I don't know if I'll ever get over the day where we went 17 minutes into
something like that, about 18 minutes, and I was like, yeah.
I didn't hit record.
One of those times was when I was in Florida last year, which I'm going back to Florida again this year, so.
We're gonna have to adjust schedules accordingly for that. All right. Well, we're good.
But yeah, real quick, shout out to Reed, man. Happy birthday, happy 4th birthday to one of our youngest fans out there. And real quick, ready?
Real quick, we'll do it for Reed, especially since my boy Kyle just hopped in and put "Go Birds." I would like to torture him as much as possible. So I hope he genuinely dislikes.
We'll pick
what's
up the
about
pace
to
on
happen.
this one.
All right.
All right.
You lead us out. You get us started, my man.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Reed. Happy birthday to you.
Go Devils!
And many more. So that's
Kyle, I
song.
hope that made your ears ring.
Anywho, let's kick this show off for real. Let's get some music playing. Let's get it going. It's good to be back again. Yeah.
So good.
It's always good.
Louis is on some high energy stuff today. Is it because the weather's getting nicer? He feels
that.
it?
No, Joey. I feel like he's like, where's that other guy that's normally here? He unfortunately can't be here with us. So Louis like, I got to make up for it.
He needs extra attention.
He needs extra love and attention.
I got to do the attention of two guests.
Right? So joining me as always, Mr. David Hastings. Happy to have you, sir.
Happy to be here. All right, Louis.
Come on,
all
bud.
right. Come on. You
Good
got to
boy.
lay down, bud. All right. I know.
Good
Everybody
boy.
loves you. Everybody loves you. It's okay. For those on the podcast that can't see us, he's adorable. Just so that you know this. Like
you see his picture around.
Oh yeah, right. We do have him in the background,
and he's like the thumbnail. He's everywhere.
Yeah,
so you're gonna.
He's as big part of this show as anybody else.
Absolutely. But that being said, speaking of the show, where do we want to start tonight? Because it's kind of it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag of fun. So I don't know where you want to go, what you want to start with. I mean, I originally thought about starting with the banning of the Tush Push and get your thoughts and feelings on that.
I actually think that might be a good way to go. I mean, we got Kyle in our chat who is a diehard Eagles fan. So I'm sure he has his 2 cents. Just like every Eagles fan, I don't imagine there's a single one out there that's like, no, ban the Tush Push. It's not a football play. It's this, it's that. But when it comes down to banning it, I hate it in the moment simply due to the fact that if you're rooting for the team trying to stop it, there's I think it's like a 92% chance you're not going to stop it, right? So like that's why you hate it, right? That's why you hate it. But when it's all said and done, like every team in the NFL can do the Tush Push, but they're the only ones that actually can execute on it on a consistent basis. So to me, that's more just saying like, hey, it's unfair that you guys can do this and we can't. Like that's what it comes across to as me. I don't know what you think, but like I'm
torn on this issue because I see it from both sides. So like honestly, I'm at a point where like I don't know how to feel because I get that like, oh, well, you know, it's kind of an unfair thing they do. But at the same time, you've seen it enough. Why can't you scheme against it? Like, there's got to be something that can be done on that. Like, so almost like you want to ban it because you can't beat it or because it keeps beating you. But why don't you just get better at it? Like, to me, it's one of those things where I'm like, but I don't know. But I see it from the other side of, like, it is kind of a bit unfair to have your fullback, your tailback, and, you know, your tight ends and linemen all pushing, you know, your quarterback ahead. It's a lot of manpower going forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and to stop that, it's hard to do. So I get it, and I get the defensive struggles to it. But at the same point, like, and I'm in the division, and I'm going to say, right now, the way I would lean is I wouldn't ban it. I just think you got to find a way to beat it. Like, you can't just cry just because, like, oh, well, we can't win if you're going to play like that. Yeah. Well, listen, find a way to win. That's what winners do. The Eagles found a way. The Eagles found something that works for them. Well, guess what? Find something that works for you. Find something defensively that works for you to be able to stop it every now and then, too. How about that?
Yeah.
Put in a big package. If you know that they're coming in on 4th and 1, sell all out and go goal line package.
Yeah.
Do something of that nature where you know, all out blitz, whatever you want to call, like, get everybody up on the line. Leave leave coverage open if you need to. Whatever you think you got to do to stop that play or make them change the play to something else, like, that's what you have to do. You have to force them into a different way. It's like in basketball. Like, if a guy keeps going to the right side of the hoop, he keeps driving right, are you going to cry to the officials going, oh my God, he shouldn't be able to do that. Yeah. He should only be able to go left. He should only be No, you find a way to force him left. You find a way to force the play a different way. You find a way to stop it. And to me, that's kind of where my mindset is. So I could be swayed either way still, but right now I'm in the camp of don't ban it. I think you have to find a way to beat it.
And that's kind of how I look at it. Like, if you want to be able to do it, right, go find yourself a quarterback that can, you know, squat, 500 pounds, 600 pounds, right? Go get an offensive line that's as good as theirs. Because it's the guys that are pushing them from behind are not the special players in executing this play.
No.
Right? It's the quarterback and that offensive line. That center gets his head down, snaps the ball, and he just stays low, right? Mm-hmm. So when it's all said and done, just like any goal line play, like before they started doing this, it really boiled down to who could get lower, and that team was the team that won that battle. It's basically the same concept, like Kyle mentioned in our chat, right? It's basically a quarterback sneak. It's just a really well-executed quarterback sneak that has advantages for the team running it because they have the personnel to run it. Like,
absolutely.
It's not... If the Eagles had, you know...
And it's attributed to the Eagles, but other teams, I mean, Josh Allen, like, there's other teams that can implement this too and run this too. Like, you know, it's not just the Eagles. So, again, to do that, it's, to me...
Yeah, you're like...
It's to me like in baseball. I hated that they banned the defensive shift. Because, to be honest, if a team wants to shift and put all their players on one side of the field... You should be able, as a professional hitter, to hit it the other way. Get easy singles. Just bam. Just all easy. All day. But instead, guys kept trying to have launch angle and pull and everything else, and they ended up changing the rules to favor the hitters rather than favor the game itself. But really, players should just be better overall players, and the same here goes. You just have to find a way to beat it. You got to find that for every offensive move, there's a defensive move to counter it, in my opinion. And nobody's come up with that defensive move yet. It's got to be out there. It can be done. And the first team that figures it out is going to be the first team that stops the Eagles. And next thing you know, everybody in the league is going to figure it out. And that play will go by the wayside.
Yeah.
But until that happens, you're going to have people complaining like this. So instead of writing complaints to the NFL, how about you and your defensive coaches get in a room and scheme something better?
Well, I mean, think about it. Remember, you know, all those years ago, the read option, right? Like when you had running backs taking direct snaps and you had all this movement and the Dolphins were doing it. And then everybody else started doing it, and it was something everybody else could do. So defenses learned how to adjust to it. The problem is not every team plays the Eagles every single year. So for most teams, it's not something you really game plan for throughout your season, right? Division rivals, you know, the Commanders, the Cowboys, the Giants, like, these teams have to play them twice a year, so they're going to spend a little more time trying to figure out how to stop it. But when it's all said and done, I remember when the Eagles first brought it out, that Dallas talked about how they brought in a rugby coach because it's basically a rugby scrum, right? Mm-hmm. And they brought in a rugby coach, and guess what? It didn't matter because the Eagles have the personnel to execute it. So you want to get mad about the play, it's not the play. It's the fact that the Eagles have the people to execute it, and they execute it at a 90+% clip, and that's why you're mad about it.
I think to beat it, honestly, what you have to do, and this is just me thinking off the top of my head, you almost have to play like a 3-4 defense because you got to have the nose tackle up, or like lined up with the center. You can't have the center having that gap between where he can easily dive forward, stay lower than everybody else. You got to have somebody lined up over top that could try to hit him, try to get him up, or so that you could try to get lower than him. Because I think you made a great point. Part of the reason that works is because you're 100% right. That center gets lower than everybody else.
Yep.
And when he's able to wedge in just that yard is all they need, then the quarterback could literally just fall on top of him and everybody just make sure he falls that way.
Just push him, just make him slide across the body.
So what you have to do is almost line up over top of him, find a way to get lower than him. I don't know exactly what that way is, but find a way to get lower than him.
The fastest army crawl.
And then this way, at least when he comes in, he's up at a little bit of a higher pace, and then maybe you could have some guys that can knock him back. That's really the only thing. But I think you got to play like a 3-4. You got to bring up those 4 linebackers, so it's almost like a 7-man front.
Yeah.
And then you got to have everybody.
And you're talking squeezed
in and going in the same motion.
Then you got the counter to it where they, whatever. When it's all said and done, I don't think it should be banned. But even Carl pointed out, right? You do need that big nose tackle, right? You need that big guy,
Sexy Dexy could do it if the Giants could put together a defense. And listen, the Giants have a defense that I think could, if they got to that level, stop something like that because they have a nose tackle. They have a guy in the middle there in the trenches that's one of the best in the league. And you need a guy like that who's going to be able to stand up to that offensive line. He's somebody I think that could. Now, granted, I still think the Giants aren't that great, but they have, and he is one of the best defensive linemen in the league, and especially interior. He's one of the top 2 or 3 interior linemen in all of football.
Well, like Carl pointed out, right? You need one of those guys, and I'm pretty sure you could count on your hand how many guys in the league are that kind of guy, right? Dexter Lawrence, Vita Vea. Right,
Aaron Donald used to be.
But that's what I mean, right? You're sitting here, if you sat here and the Eagles probably have 2 of the 4 or 5 guys in the entire league that you could put in that position to try and stop that, and the Eagles have them on their team already. So you're not getting those 2 guys, right? So Tampa Bay's not letting him go until he's basically near retirement. The Giants already locked up Lawrence for, I think they got him for at least 3 more years. They gave him the extension, I think, last offseason. So
yep.
You got to find these guys, and there's not a lot of them out there. And the reason for it is because it's very hard to be 6'4", 340 freaking pounds, and a freak athlete. And those guys are exactly that. They are freak athletes in inhumane bodies, and it's mind blowing. So yeah, you can't ban it. I'm sorry. You have to accept the fact. When they first mentioned that, I heard apparently back in the day, when football first started, the toss play they tried to ban. From running the ball. So they wanted you to just hand it directly to the guy and he had to make his moves from there. They tried to ban the halfback toss. Because it was so hard to stop until defenses figured out it's that athleticism and combination of all that stuff. And
it was wishbone and it was this, it was that,
But it's what makes football, right? The defenses get ahead, then the offenses pass them. Then they're ahead, then the defenses catch up. It's the wonderful game of chess that football is. And
the only problem is, though, and I will say this, that the rules and such over the last 20 years have greatly favored the offenses as opposed to the defenses. It is a lot different playing defense now than it was 30 years ago. The hits, the way you tackle in general. The way guys used to fly around and just launch their bodies, you don't do that anymore. You don't see guys doing that anymore. There's no more, the helmets, all that, all taken out. All those big names all those big hits taken out of the game. So many of the rules have gone against the defenses. I guess they're just looking for a bone here. They're just looking for, can you give us something? Can we get a rule going our way for once? And I guess that's where I could see it from their perspective, because every other rule change that's been done has been an offensive minded, because again, the game with fantasy football and gambling and everything else, it's trended towards an offensive game. It's trended toward more points, more offense, more, so it is hard to play defense. So I understand it from that perspective. That's why I'm saying I could be torn either way. I don't know which way to go. And I hope the NFL doesn't make a hasty decision. I hope they don't just go, oh, well, this is the play that won the Eagles Super Bowl, so we have to. No, I hope they put a little bit more thought into it. I hope they really take their time and try to figure out if it's the right move for the sport before they just ban it. Because to me right now, the way I look at it, I'm 60-40 leaning towards they should not ban it.
Yeah, I'm heavier on the not banning, but like talking about something that I'm interested to see how it works out is the one rule change they're looking to do is banning the first down chains and going tech and trying to get more precise and accurate with their first down calls, their fourth down calls where the ball gets placed. So they're looking into doing that, which I think is really good. I hope it works because they should have the technology to do it. But you're also going to need a personal eye, like, that type of view from people to help make sure that placement is done correctly. Because if they're doing something where maybe bodies can stop the signal from connecting, like for an example, right, a tush push, right? If they got to go 2 yards, is it going to be able to see exactly where that ball is through all the bodies? Like what type of technology are they using? I'm not a tech person, so I can't even act like I would say, oh, use this, not that, right? But like, that's the other big thing I know that they're talking about doing, and they're pretty confident they're going to do it.
Where is the chip going to be in the ball? Because is it going to be at like each nose, like each point of the ball?
I mean, to me, there should be one on each nose and one smack dab in the middle. Because I mean, the nose just has to cross the plane.
That's
where
what I mean,
the nose of the ball is.
That's what we're talking about.
Like,
so
if a guy falls sideways, like you're gonna want where do all three line up? Which one's the farthest in front? Which one? So I mean, I think putting 3 in there would be good personally, but again, not a tech guy, so 3 might cause a problem. I really have no idea.
Me either, but it is something they're definitely going to go to, and I agree with you 100% there because it's technology, and people want the instantaneous. They don't want to worry about chain gangs anymore or any of that. They don't want to. They want it. Listen, here it is. This is what the ball said it was. First down. And done with
and not to mention, like, that takes so much pressure off of the referees. Like, the amount of times they get judged. But then again, one of the other things I thought about, right, with tinfoil hat Erich, right? I get these thought processes from you, is that like, okay, how easily manipulated are these sensors, right? Like, how is this going to be like? Are you taking away opportunities to rig or fix games, or are you putting more opportunities out there for like? So, I mean, there's a lot out there, but I think it is the right next step for how we track where first downs are and where the ball should be placed. And not to mention, there's got to be some cool other things that they can do as the years go by with having that type of stuff in there, right? Like a virtual reality experience for people watching football. Like, hey, I love going to games, but I can't afford going to games. But now since there's a tracker, and like, I don't know, there's a lot of cool things in there, but I think that is something that is a step up in the right direction, and I hope it is something that they approve. And it's, from what I've seen so far, it does sound like that's a route they're going to go. I don't know if you had any thoughts on it or anything else NFL. I mean, right now we're all kind of in that rumor mill spot right now, so I don't really see much out there.
No, there's nothing too crazy out there right now, other than I thought it was funny that the Jets gave Woody Johnson, the players gave him an F on his report card.
Oh, yeah, but what I laughed at was the players gave their head coach an A, the guy that got fired.
Oh, Hasala?
No, the Cowboys.
Oh, the Cowboys coach. McCarthy?
McCarthy got an A from the players. What was the lowest graded for them was their strength and conditioning coaches and like their weight rooms, because they're basically, animals behind a glass window, letting people walk by and watch them work out as they prep and do their workouts. But when I saw that McCarthy got an A, I'm like, all right, well, I guess the players were bought into him. I mean, he got a lot of support in the media when players got asked about him, but that's the politically correct thing to do.
Yeah.
Now they're getting asked to vote anonymously, and they still gave the guy an A. So apparently a lot of things that were said about him were not just smoke and mirrors to like look good and PR and all that type of stuff. So it is what it is. I mean, he no longer is employed. Nobody else gave him a job. So
ESPN, Fox, somebody's going to pick him up. He'll be picked up.
Yeah, I think, and Kyle makes a good point. You do have the NFL Combine coming this week. I'm not a big Combine guy.
And to be honest, most of the guys don't participate in it. Like, you don't have any of the big quarters.
Names. Yeah, the quarterbacks aren't throwing.
Nope.
Genty, the running back from Boise State.
Ashton Genty.
He's not doing any workouts. He's only doing interviews and physicals. So, like, a lot of these guys have realized that they look their best when they're on their, where they played with their teammates and doing things like that. But I've never been a big Combine guy. Now, the last couple years, Dallas is drafted in the 20s. So, like, for me, getting excited about top prospects has never been really worth the time. You just sit there and you just say, I hope a lot of quarterbacks go so these other positions fall, right? With Dallas at 12, I mean, my favorite guy coming out of the draft is the kid out of Penn State, but a lot of people think Tennessee might actually go with him over the quarterback. So, I mean, I don't think I have that much faith in
Carter, right?
Abdul. I think it's Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy apparently was playing with one shoulder instead of two in the college football playoff, and he still was the most dominant guy on the field.
Fife says he's the best guy in the draft. Says that if he's there at 3, by some chance, if the other two teams do take quarterbacks, that's the guy the Giants should be looking at. Like, and he's been adamant about that he thinks he's the best player in the draft. So I'll shout him out for that because he's been saying that name since before the college football playoff
I was going to say,
started.
yeah. I mean, he started talking about him when the season started. But also, one of the other things I remember Fife pointing out about that too, right, is you can never have too many pass rushers, right? And what was the formula for the Giants to make it to the Super Bowl? Having that NASCAR package, right? And when you're sitting there thinking about it, like, can you really have too many? So if he does fall, I don't think he's going to. I don't know. I honestly don't know how the quarterback's well enough, but it does seem like everybody's really kind of set on Cam Ward being the number one quarterback taken. And I mean, I understand, like, you build the trenches first, but if you have a guy you believe is your franchise guy, like, you just got to take him. And I don't think they believe that what's his name that they Levis or Levi or however you say it. I don't think many people have him as a franchise quarterback moving forward. So I think you're better off. You got to get your quarterback.
I mean, I just pulled it up there. So the ESPN has Abdul Carter ranked number 1 overall, Travis Hunter 2. But if you look top 5, 6, none of the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
None of the quarterbacks, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first quarterback
is Cam Ward at 10.
So you got 2 offensive linemen, 3 edge rushers, a D tackle. See, that's the thing, right? Like, I don't see a tight end going in the top 5. I just don't see any team in the top 5, top 10 saying a tight end's the guy that's going to take our team to the next level, right? You want a competitive roster already, and the tight end is that next step up, right? That to me is what you're thinking.
Well, shout out to Mr. Erich Pfeiffer as he's calling in right now, so I'm just getting him hooked up here. He should be joining us any second. There he is. How you doing tonight, sir? Mr. Pfeiffer?
Hello.
How are you? Did you check out the beginning of the stream? If you haven't checked out the beginning of the stream, go and check it out. We did a little singing for Reed's birthday. You show it to him later.
My dudes, I will.
I mean, it wasn't good, but
awesome.
we definitely sent Reed some love.
I would guarantee it's a beautiful harmony.
If you're deaf, it definitely is.
So your ears must have been ringing because we were actually just talking about you telling us about Abdul Carter prior to, like, and pretty much all season long, and how he's ranked number 1 overall, and how we're thinking we're not sure how the draft's going to shake out, but if he's there at 3, we were just talking about, because of the banning of the Tush Push, what linemen and good defensive linemen could do to help maybe mitigate that play. And like Dave just mentioned, you've always said, what brought the Giants a Super Bowl? The fact that they had a lot of really good pass rushers. So wouldn't mind seeing Abdul Carter at number 3. But we were just talking about how the quarterbacks, the first quarterback listed on the overall top 10 is Cam Ward at number 10. Before that, there aren't they're not highly rated quarterbacks this year. Even though they're, coming out with a lot of hype, the hype isn't actually equaling, I think, what their talent is. So that all said, you got any thoughts on the Tush Push or thoughts on the draft?
I mean, I honestly don't think about Tush Push, people have been talking about taking it out again, that you can't do it or saying it's illegal or just trying to stop it. Shoot.
I think he's realizing this.
I'm here.
Yeah, I was going to say, connection's a little bad.
I'm back.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, I pulled into my apartment complex, and my phone wanted to hook up to my Wi-Fi from 200 feet away.
Don't you love technology?
So I turned that off, and we're back. So you're talking about taking it out of the game completely, or just how to stop it?
No, they're talking about banning it. As Dave pointed out, the Packers, I think, have put forth something to the league to try to ban the Tush Push. I am 60-40 leaning against not banning it. I think defenses need to find a way to beat it, not just cry and get the rules changed. So I'm kind of leaning that way myself. But
dude, I know it's not the most exciting play in the world, but innovation is part of sport, right? Hockey has changed over time. Football has changed over time. Innovative things have caused this to happen. You find a way to stop it. You don't cry about it. I'm 100%, and I hate the damn Eagles. I am 100% against making a rule against the Tush Push. They figured out a way to get a first down on short yardage. Stop it. Don't cry about it. If you can't stop it, then more power to them.
All right, so we do have a unanimous on this one because completely agree. Literally completely agree with you.
Right, don't be a vagine.
I haven't heard that in a while.
Well, that's a great way to kind of get us to segue to the next thing. And while we have you, I want to talk NHL because me and Dave definitely aren't going to be able to carry NHL just by ourselves. We need you here, my friend. And I've been dying to hear your thoughts. We gave a lot of our thoughts last week on the Four Nations face-off and how great it was. And how great we thought it was. Even though the U.S. had ended up losing to Canada, it's okay because, to be honest, it just brought a lot of excitement to the sport. It's by far the best all-star thing that any league has done in a very, very, very long time. And I know originally you were against it. We didn't get a chance to get into it that night about why you were against it, but I know that your perception of it changed as the week went on. So give us your thoughts on the Four Nations face-off, and then we'll get your thoughts on the NHL as a whole here as we start making a push towards the postseason.
Yeah, I was against it because I didn't think that these guys were going to go all in like they. I underestimated the amount of pride these guys have in wearing their country's uniform. So I didn't think that they were going to go all in the way they did. And they did, and it was awesome. At what cost, though? I'm sure there's a couple owners and GMs out there who aren't happy about how much these guys bought into it because there's some guys who have been lost for some considerable amount of time who are big parts of their NHL team. And I'm not just saying that because U.S. lost. I would have said it they won or they lost. I'm so happy that they did it the way they did. Caution to the wind. Let's go win this thing. And I'm happy that it's going to expand into a World Cup format where you're going to have more than just four nations. Because let's be perfectly honest, this thing was set up so that we were going to have a U.S. Canada. Nothing against Finland, nothing against Sweden, nothing against those teams. They have done amazing things in the past where they found a way to win gold or get into that, tournament. But it's just, it was set up that way. It was going to be U.S. Canada from the start. And you could see it. But then I saw some of the prettiest hockey I've seen in a long time. Sorry. I'm just getting over the flu. I got a dry throat and I don't have a water bottle with me. So bear with me on that. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
But it was awesome. It was great. And I don't think it's something that you can do every year because it takes away from it if you do it that way. So I like how it's going to go, Olympics, then 2 years World Juniors. They'll probably do some form of the all-star competition like they've always done in between, but I don't think you can do it every year.
All right. See, I think it is something they could possibly do every year. But again, I understand what you're saying. Maybe every other year, or on the off years like you're talking about, where instead of the Olympics, maybe it's like the World Cup of hockey. So, bringing that back. I don't mind either way.
The World Cup and the Euro Cup, the way they stagger that, every 2 years.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I can see that. And listen, I think it would be good. I think it would be good for the sport. And you could tell people get into it. People get into it not just for the game itself, but for their yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Their country.
Their country. Yeah. But either way,
they're in it for their country.
Absolutely.
And honestly, for hockey, it came in at the right time because you have these teams that are now on a playoff push. So this is where the league starts to heat up. Now, obviously, viewership, I think the following weekend was about the same, maybe if it was a little bit higher after, like when they kicked back off on Saturday with the regular season. I don't think that it made that much of a difference in the ratings. NHL is always going to live and die by their playoffs.
Yeah, but where it did make a difference in the ratings is the All-Star game itself. Like, that game itself did monster ratings. Like, the championship game, but not only that, but like the game prior to that where the U.S. played Canada did amazing ratings. Absolutely destroyed whatever the NBA put out there. It wasn't even close.
Right. No, it wasn't.
I think the NBA had like 1.4, I think, total, and it was like the first Canada-U.S. game had like 10.1.
Like I said,
it was that big a difference.
I was out at a bar for a friend's birthday, and every TV had the hockey game on. Not a single TV had the NBA All-Star Weekend on.
That's a good.
Also, though, what they're hoping for when that happens is a trickle-down effect to where it does boost the ratings a little bit in the NHL. So the good thing is that, with a few more eyes on it, right now is that time of year where things start to intensify and teams are playing with more intensity. So if you get those eyes on it, they're getting on it at the right time of year because teams are making that playoff push. But I don't think it had the trickle down effect that they were hoping for as far as ratings go. But even so, a few more eyes, it's great, And then when the Olympics do come around, it's going to be a bit different. As you know, the international sheet is bigger than the NHL sheet. So you're not going to see the big hits. You're not allowed to fight. You fight, you get thrown out in the Olympics. So there's those factors that aren't going to be there on an Olympic sheet of ice, but it's still going to be great hockey. It's just not going to be as intense. So,
it'll be as intense. It just won't be as physical.
Right. And whereas this intensity and physicality probably brought in a few more of your casual fans, that's going to be more of I think your more seasoned fans of hockey are watching the Olympics, but there's still going to be more eyes on it than normal.
All right.
So Fife, not to get off the Four Nations, but how many more games do we think until Ovechkin sets the record?
I mean, didn't he have a hat trick the other night? It could be
like 2 nights ago. Yeah, he had a hat trick.
He was hurt for most of the early part of the year, right? Otherwise, he would have had. I think he's on pace. I saw he's on pace to have it in April.
Yeah, I mean, 13, 14 goals away. He's the type of guy who can score a goal a game. So, I mean, it could be anywhere from 15 to 20 games.
Yeah, so I think the April mark is probably the mark where you want to really start honing in on that. But, I mean, just speaking of what Washington's done, they've been one of the hottest teams in all of hockey, and they're leading the Eastern Conference right now. Any thoughts on this Capitals team? Do you think that they could really put a run in here for one of Ovechkin's last years, if not his last year?
Well, that's the part of it is that team, that locker room loves that guy. He's just a fun guy to play with from everything that I've heard. He's a fun guy in the locker room, and a lot of players look up to him. So I feel like, you heard a lot out of Washington that they were bought in more so on making sure he gets his record than winning a cup. But I think that the guys are kind of rallying around him. They love him so much that they want to, and everybody's just upping their level of play. I wouldn't say that they are the greatest team in the NHL, but any team can turn it on and be what they need to be to make that push and make that run.
They're only 1 point off right now. They're 1 point behind Winnipeg for top spot in the league, And what do you think?
How that goes.
That's what I was just going to ask you. President's Cup Trophy curse, right?
Do you really want that?
I don't think. And then people call it a curse. I really think what it is it's a war of attrition. And those teams that make that push to win that President's Trophy, they just run out of gas it's grueling, dude. 16 wins to win a cup and 4 7-game series it's grueling. And after a grueling 82-game season, there's a reason that some teams, most teams, I would say, kind of turn it down a little bit. It's an unwritten rule. You guys know I've said this a million times on this show. The middle of the season, middle 20, you call it, right? The middle 20 games, 20 to 25. Everybody turns it down to about 80% so that when the playoffs roll around, they're ready to go. And that's, to me personally, why I think the President's Trophy winner does not do well in the playoffs, because they push too hard during the regular season. And when the playoffs come around, they're gassed.
So is that something that Washington has to be worried about? If they're making a push here, Ovechkin's making a hard push for his record. If by the end of the year they make this push, are they going to have enough left in the tank to actually make a run?
But that's the thing. At this point now, the middle of the season is where you worry about that. Now, again, we're at the tail end. We're at the last couple months. We're at the last 20 to 30 games. Now you can't worry about that. Now you got to keep going because everybody else is coming at you 100%. So now it's too late to worry about that. And you just got to keep doing what you're doing and hope you can keep doing that all the way through till, what is it, June? July?
June.
End of June?
Yeah.
So that at this point now, it's too late to worry about that. You got to keep going. And then as far as our Devils go, they're just missing that one thing. And if I could explain that one thing in one player, it's Brady Tkachuk. That guy never you watch the Four Nations, right? Yeah. That guy never played a playoff game his entire NHL career. And you saw the way he turned it up for that playoff type atmosphere. That's a guy where, if Ottawa were to make him available and I'm the Devils, I'm selling the farm to get a guy like that in that lineup. As far as draft picks go, you still have to keep the lineup somewhat intact. But as far as draft picks go, and maybe even maybe a Mercer or something, as much as I don't want to say it because I love Dawson Mercer, you're doing what you can to get a guy like that if Ottawa were to open that up. But I don't think they will. I don't think you let a guy like that go unless you have no chance in the next 5 years to do anything. And I think with that guy in your lineup, you do. But a player like that, I think, is what the Devils are missing. They're going to be missing when it comes playoff time, unless somebody like Timo Meier turns it on. And then a lot of guys I've been seeing a lot of bad reports about Andre Palat, but you can't take away what that guy gives you in a playoff atmosphere. He's just a big gamer, big game player. So I think that's the kind of guy who, when the playoffs roll around, he's going to, raise some eyebrows and start coming on. But there have been some negative reports about him too lately, I've seen. But I just feel like that's the type of guy you need in a locker room when you go into the playoffs. So I just don't know if this team's there yet. And they're starting to kind of, this year, next year is like the peak of their time to do it. So they need to find out how to fill that intensity hole in their lineup. That guy who just goes to the net and isn't afraid of nobody,
Any thoughts on, speaking of a guy who did get picked up by the Rangers, any thoughts on what JT Miller's been able to bring to the Rangers? Because he's actually had a really good start since coming back to New York.
Yeah, he's a good player. You plug him in. He does all the things you need him to do, offensively, defensively. It's something that they needed. I honestly think the best thing they did was the shakeup that they did, what was it, maybe a third of the way into the season, where they started kind of getting rid of some guys, Kakko, Trouba, and they did a shakeup and they let that locker room know that they meant business. And if you weren't performing, you were gone. And they started performing shortly thereafter.
I think a
that was a
big
great
part of
move.
it, and I know that last year we talked about this a little bit, but it's continued to this year. They play different when they have Matt Rempe in the lineup. They do.
There's a reason for that.
Whatever that reason is, they play better when he's in the lineup. And I mean, stats, record, everything out there proves it. And I mean, tell me, what is it?
Well, he offers more space even without he doesn't play barely. He plays a couple minutes a game, but the opposing team knows he's there. There's a documentary, I've told you guys about it a million times. It's called Ice Guardians. It's probably the best documentary about hockey I've ever seen as far as the enforcers go. And I believe it was Chris Gratton played for the Flames. And Theo Fleury, not Marc-Andre Fleury, Theo Fleury, older guys know who he is. Great player for the Flames. Went up to him one game, and he's like, dude, I love it when you're here, because when you're here, I get so much more time and space out there because the other team knows you're here. And they're not going to come, and they're not going to cheap shot me. They're not going to whack me. They're not going to hit me, because if they do, they know they got to deal with you. And having a guy like this is why trying to take fighting out of hockey, it just can't happen, because they self-police. The ref can't call everything. Guys get away with things. It happens. But when a guy like that is sitting on the bench, the other team thinks twice about giving a Panarin a shot in the hip or whatever, a slash, a whack, an extra hit, a hard hit. They might rub them off the puck, but they're not going to rail them into the boards, because they know there's a chance that they got to deal with Rempe. And even if they're not the ones who got to deal with a guy like Rempe, their enforcer is going to have to deal with Rempe, and then he's going to be pissed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it offers more space for your skill players, just his presence of being in a lineup. I still think he's a hack, and he doesn't belong in the league. But that's because I'm a Devil fan. I can't stand the guy. It's the other things that he does when he is on the ice, where he gets himself into trouble and thrown out of games, hits high. He's either got to figure out how to not do that, because we're also trying not to hurt people. Like, it's one thing to drop the gloves and fight, but you don't want to be making dangerous plays and dangerous hits.
Do you think part of that
affect somebody's livelihood?
But do you think part of is the fact that he's just so damn tall? I mean, but it's hard to get so low to hit when if there's a guy you're hitting that's 5'10" and you're 6'8".
No.
It's a big difference.
Learn how to get low, dude. Like, you're a professional hockey player. Bend your knees and get low.
All right, well, listen, he's going to have to make adjustments like that, because I know that he can't afford to get suspended anymore. The league has pretty much told him that. So he has to make adjustments to his game. He knows that. So far he's been able to make them. Had a goal the other night, but the Devils have just been running with it, though, and they look like the better team, obviously, throughout the year so far. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting.
There's a lot of points in the season where I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. There's a lot of points in the season where I'm not very impressed with the New Jersey Devils. They've been a 500 hockey club a lot through parts of the season. They're trying, and I've told you guys this through text. Now I can say it here. I feel like when I went to that game, I took my son to the game against Ottawa, and they were just trying to be a 60-minute highlight reel. Like, they're just looking for those great plays all the time. And like, when you have the skill that they have,
the same the game we went to.
Yep.
Those moments where greatness is needed will come, and you'll know when to use them. But you don't do it all game long. There's times when you need to get back to the basics and just get pucks at the net and let guys like Nason and Timo Meyer and those guys kind of go to work in front of the net. Even Heischer is a beast with net front presence. Like, he finds loose pucks. Guys in the high slot, let some stuff bounce out to the high slot. They're coming down on a 2-on-1, and one thing you're taught at a young age, and granted, goalies in the NHL are way better. They know rebound control is good. But when you're coming down on a 2-on-1 and you're trying to make that pass through an NHL defenseman all the time, more times than not, they're going to intercept that pass. What you're supposed to do is shoot low to the goalie's outside pad and let your guy crash and hope that there's a rebound. So, just the simple, basic type of things is something that they need to do for the majority of the game, and then let their greatness come through when it needs to and when that opportunity presents itself. But you can't force greatness. It's got to come to you.
I was going to say, Fife, if there was one thing the Devils could work on as they push through these last 20, 30 games and try to secure that playoff spot, what's one thing you'd like to see him work on? And I think you beat me to the even asking the question. So appreciate you reading my mind, good sir. I appreciate that.
Yes, it's honestly, if I could give you one word for it, it would be grit.
Fair. I feel like I could say that about a lot of the teams I root for. So that's a very fair statement. Well, anything else hockey-wise you think we should be touching on, bringing up? Anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to touch on? Any thoughts at all that we need to get to for you?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say is if the U.S. wanted to win that championship game, they needed to lose that game Saturday. Because the way those two teams were built, 7 out of 10 times Canada's winning that game. So when you beat them Saturday, there's a good chance they're coming back and beating you Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever it is. It's just they're that good, man. And also one thing I'll say, which I've texted to you guys, is that a guy like Jack Hughes, who kind of disappeared in that setting, in that NHL size ice with all those, good players, he just kind of blended in, I would say, because he's just as good as all of them. When you get to an Olympic ice, that's where his speed and skill set is going to come into play. So I think you're going to see a different player next year when the Olympics roll around out of a Jack Hughes or something like that. But, that also speaks for the Canadian team, because they're going to be tough to beat in the Olympics. Very tough to beat with all that ice. Did you see Connor McDavid in that overtime when he decided to just he was in his own zone? He's like, yeah, I'm just going to take this thing right to the net. He didn't score, but he was just like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Well, imagine him having a lot more space to decide that. It's just going to be ridiculous.
There can be a level of unfairness, even on an NHL rink.
Yeah.
Speaking of the NHL rink, though, last thing I want to bring up to you real quick on the hockey side of things anyway is there any other surprise team out there that you're looking for? Is there anybody out there that maybe somebody's not looking at yet that's going to make a push and that you think could be really dangerous come playoff time? It doesn't matter if it's Eastern Conference, Western Conference, but is there a team out there you're looking at and going, man, that team, I don't know what they're going to look like come playoff time, but I don't want to face them?
Well, it's hard for me to say, exactly, because, every year my dark horse, because of Connor Hellebuck going into the playoffs, is Winnipeg. But now they're having such a great year that I can't call them a dark horse.
Literally leading the league in points right now. I don't think that could be a dark horse.
A plus 70
can't,
and 10 and
0 in their last 10. Yeah.
So that's always been my, this is the team that could do it. I've been saying that for since they've had Hellebuck, basically. He's probably, to me, one of the better goalies in the league. He can steal games for you. They have a good lineup. And the atmosphere in Winnipeg is absolutely amazing in the playoffs. And, you guys know that atmosphere can drive these guys to just up their game that much more. All I'm going to say is you can never count out Edmonton with Connor McDavid and that group of guys they got. Goaltending's always a question. You can never count out Florida. You can, it's just the main teams, right? I think that if the Devils figure it out and get it together, I honestly think the Devils are going to buy something at the deadline. I'm so happy that they're not sellers this year. I'm happy that they're going to be buyers, and that's a team that I think can make a push. And honestly, the Rangers have been playing good hockey, so that's another team to look out for. But it's your suspects really this year. You got your Carolinas are strong when the playoffs roll around. So you got to watch out for guys like that. And, Florida, all those guys, it's hard to say. Colorado is always scary. So I can't really pinpoint one for you at this point, but I can try and keep a little bit better of an eye on those
most disappointing for the season so far? Is there one team that you thought, man, this team, I thought they would have been great, and they just really haven't been? Has there been one big disappointment so far this year?
Not really off the top of my head.
Because I kind of saw one as we were looking at the list of teams here. There's one that surprises me at the bottom, and I'm a bit surprised that the Pittsburgh Penguins are as far down. They're second to last in the Eastern Conference, and 5 games below 500. Not well at all. Yeah, I don't know. To me, that seems like a bit of a disappointment, but I know that they've, had some issues with some guys last couple of years. They've been more sellers than buyers, but that to me is a surprise team. I just don't think they're I always think of them as being a pretty good organization, and them being that low is a bit surprising.
They are, but they're getting old, bro. You know what I'm saying? They've done nothing.
So is Ovechkin, and look at where Ovechkin's all the way at the top.
Oh, I hear you. But Pittsburgh, that whole, they've just been getting older, man, and it's just they haven't really done anything to add pieces of youth with any type of success. You know what I'm saying, to their roster. So you can have guys like Crosby, and as they get older, they can still be great, but you still got to put pieces around them. It's not that big of a surprise to me,
All right. Well, yeah, it's about all I have for you for hockey tonight. So I don't know if you got anything else you want to bring up, anything else, any other topics while we got you on the line that you want to throw at us before we moved on to anything else?
Or if not, did Reed enjoy his birthday?
Reed had a great birthday. He signed up. So my wife's about to get a crash course because she didn't really play a lot of sports growing up, right? I did. My brother did. There's a lot of running around. She's about to get a crash course this spring on what it's like to be a sports mom with and he just turned 4. But we got him signed up for T-ball, which is 2-3 times a week.
Nice.
And then we got him signed up for skating lessons on Monday nights, which is these are 2 things that he wanted to do. I don't push him into nothing. It's his choice. I know he's only 4, and that's hard to say, but if you've met the kid, he's a smart kid. Got him a brand new hockey stick today. He was absolutely beside himself. Loved every bit of it. I sent a picture because he was out of school today. I sent a picture to his school of him with his new hockey stick, and his teacher responded with, "That boy and his love for hockey, he makes hockey sticks out of the blocks that we play with at school every day." So I'm telling you, I don't push it, dude. We get home hey buddy, what do you want to do? What do you want to watch? He wants us to play hockey in his room, and then he wants to watch hockey on TV, and he's 4, and that's all he wants to do. I'm not sit down and watch hockey, boy, so we're going to be running around doing skating lessons and T-ball. And then my daughter in the summer is going to start the little 2-year-old soccer thing, which is one of the cutest things out there. So, we're just going to be pushed and pulled in all different directions. It's starting, and it's going to be a wild ride for the next, 16, 18, 20 years. Just running all over the place watching sports.
There's worse ways to spend days and weekends, my friend.
Absolutely. And I got to volunteer. So I got to check this out. You got to volunteer or you lose $200, right? So you got to volunteer 5 hours. So I was talking to one of my friends who had a kid who did T-ball last year. One of the things you can do is announce games.
There you go.
My buddy's I don't want to do that. I was talking to him. I was I do. I'm going to go all in. Now batting.
That's the way to do it.
Hey, but listen, my wife's calling me. I gotta go, but I do want to say, just not to go back to football, but real quick, Erich, I'm starting to buy into Mill Row a little bit. Yeah, and I'm gonna leave it at that, and then I gotta go.
All right,
appreciate you, Fife.
Love you, fellas.
Love you too. Later. And we'll get into it. We'll get into that Mill Row thing another day. But looking forward to seeing you this weekend. And happy birthday, Reed, man.
Thanks, boys. See you later.
Later, my man.
Later. That was Mr. Erich Pfeiffer joining us on the line.
Coming through.
Which I'm happy because it was perfect timing. Get into some hockey. We really haven't talked enough hockey here, and he is our hockey guru. So happy to have him.
One thing we do talk a lot about, though.
WNBA?
WNBA,
baby.
WNBA.
Hold on, wait. Because get a little.
Last I checked, there is nobody that talks more WNBA than this podcast right here. So. But sadly, not great news. Hell of a career.
No. The most decorated female basketball player of all time. The most decorated. She has almost every record. She has almost everything out there that you would need to play. And to be honest, I feel slightly vindicated because I heard this the other night on the radio from Mr. Alan Hahn on ESPN Radio. And Alan Hahn's been covering basketball and the Knicks and everything forever. He agreed with me and said that Dana Taurasi was one of the only players he ever thought could have made it in the NBA. She could have actually played in the NBA. And I'll stand by that. And listen, she was a college champion, an Olympic champion, a world champion, a WNBA champion. She's set pretty much every record you could set. She's done everything you could do. She's led the league. She's won MVPs. She's done everything. She is a clear first ballot Hall of Famer. She is on the Mount Rushmore of women's sports, if you ask me. Honestly, on the Mount Rushmore of women's sports in general. Just all of women's sports, not even just basketball. I think that highly of Dana Taurasi and her game.
I mean, 20 years all with Phoenix. Averaged basically 19 points a game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal.
And she's played for 20 years.
Yeah.
She's 40 years old.
87% career free throw shooter, 42.5% from the field, 36% from 3, but 3 was never her real game. But yeah, just one of the greatest WNBA players or female basketball players.
I'm gonna die on the hill
history.
that she is the greatest female basketball player to ever live. I'm dying on a hill. The same way people would die on it with Jordan as the GOAT in the NBA, I am dying on the hill that Dana Taurasi is the GOAT of women's basketball. She name somebody else that has her accolades with her
longevity too.
Longevity,
like combination of everything, right? Like you gotta. It's hard not to give that to her. I mean, I never dug that deep into the history of women's basketball to be able to sit here and say, "Oh no, I would take this person or that person," and like spark an argument. But I think the WNBA is lucky to be able to say, "Hey, we're watching one of our greatest go," while our league probably has the most talent it's ever had. And the fact that she is one of the foundational pieces that helped get the WNBA to where it is today. One of the people that was able to help keep the league afloat during the years where they were struggling.
14-time WNBA All-Star, 14-time WNBA All WNBA.
Okay.
11-time All-Star, 3 WNBA champion, and the all-time leading scorer in WNBA history.
I mean, I do think you have a signed ball from somebody that may be going for that mark one day.
Absolutely.
If she can stay healthy. 20 years is a long time playing basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And these women do not play pitter-patter, soft touch basketball. These women play tough, physical basketball. You got more. We got more. All right,
so she was WNBA champion, 14-time All WNBA, 11-time WNBA All-Star, 3-time college champion, 3-time WNBA champion.
She played for UConn, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Got him right there. Bam. 2004 first overall pick, lived up to the hype. 2-time WNBA Finals MVP. WNBA Rookie of the Year, 6-time Olympic gold medalist, 5-time WNBA scoring champion, and like we pointed out, she is the WNBA all-time leading scorer.
What I find crazy is that she was an all WNBA player 14 times, but only voted into the WNBA All-Star game 11 times. So,
right,
she was voted as one of the best players in the league. From the more important aspect, I guess you would say.
Yep.
But 3 out of the 14 years, they were like, sorry, but you're not good enough to be an all-star. Now, maybe she didn't want to play. I don't know. Maybe it was her later years.
She's the only player in WNBA history with more than 8,000 career points. She has 10,646.
Wow. That is a hell of a career.
And she's the only one over 8,000.
Yeah.
She's the only one over 8,000.
And she's cleared that mark. Like, it's not
like cleared the mark.
Yeah. That's
so. Shout out to her. Great career. I mean, a lot of people would also put like Sue Bird in the same conversation. They would put but again, I just think her longevity, 20 years, the championships, on every level, the what she's been able to do is just special. And I'm gonna remember her as the GOAT. That's how I'm gonna remember her because. honestly, I remember watching her when she played for UConn. Like, I remember that far back.
Oh, I remember watching her play for UConn, and I remember when she got drafted first overall because she was such a big name coming into the
2004 first overall pick.
Yeah. So you're talking we just graduated. You
would have been freshman in college. I was
sophomore. Yeah. Finally, I'm around somebody that I'm younger than. Jesus Christ. Takes a lot of effort.
Not by much, though.
Not by much. Those days are approaching very quickly.
Well, speaking of guys whose days are approaching very quickly, and I guess I'll transition it there. We'll keep it in that basketball realm, and I'm going to bring it up because I got to think the process is over.
Oh
I gotta think that it's, it's got to be done. He's just never healthy. They've tried to put pieces around him, teams around him. He had one good year where he played like an MVP or two or three,
he had 2 or 3 years where he was in that MVP conversation. He was towards the lower end of the MVP conversation.
But I don't think he's ever had a year where he hasn't been hurt.
No, I think if you add it up, I mean,
he's not as bad as
Zion, but like
I think it's close. I think he's actually been hurt more games than he's played for Philadelphia.
I mean, as the years go by, those numbers are going to get a lot closer if they're not already really close. But I honestly think if you're Philly, you build around Maxey. But I also think that since they were right there on the bubble of potentially being a playoff team, that's why they brought him back. They probably should have shut him down for the whole year and never brought him back because when he came back, he looked horrible. He didn't look healthy. He wasn't running right. His eye for the game, you could tell, was rusty. He wasn't, revved up to game speed. So, how many 5-on-5 real practices did he go through? But look, there's no denying his skill at the game of basketball, right? Like, a lot of people would kill to be as good at basketball as he is. Simultaneously, I'd probably take being a little less good and be a little bit more available, as well as be a little bit more in that championship fighting for a ring conversations instead of just like, oh yeah, Joel dropped 40 and 18, but his team lost by 20. All right, like that's most of his career. I'm building around Maxey if I'm Philadelphia. He's without a doubt the best player they have. And I don't care the other pieces they put around. Like Paul George came out and said he's going to stop doing podcasts to help focus on a championship, and they're sitting out. Like the Bulls are the last team in the standings right now to make the playoff bubble, right, or the play-in tournament or whatever. And Chicago and Philly played the other night, and Chicago won by 37 points. Like, Chicago's not 37 points better than Philly, but Philly is just not there mentally as a team. I don't know if it's coaching, Embiid, whatever you want to point the finger at, but yeah, no, I think the process is over, and trusting the process turned into a similar experience to trusting somebody that stole from you. I mean, that's really how it worked out. These Sixers fans stayed patient, put a lot of money into tickets and merchandise and all that, and all they got out of it was a couple second round exits. I don't even think they made an Eastern Conference Finals with Embiid on this team. So yeah, it's not a good look, and yeah, I mean the process is most likely nearing an end. But I think Embiid's not really going anywhere. I think they're just shutting it down for this year, and he's not going anywhere as long as the money's still coming in. But I got to be honest, I honestly wouldn't pay him anymore. Like once his contract's out, no, I'd wash my hands of him. Right now, every team that doesn't think they can win a championship is basically in the let's pray for Cooper flag. Right, like the kid out of Duke, and he's actually fallen off over the last couple of weeks from things I've heard, mm-hmm. But the guy for the most part in the offseason and leading into the season and for the majority of the season was considered the best player in college basketball, and he just has a game that fits the NBA, and it's something that I think a lot of teams are more. If you don't think you win a ring, you're going after him. And Philly is a team that cannot win a ring, so why not fall apart and just let it be? Like, shut Embiid down, let Maxey continue to develop his game, and you let your team just keep losing games. I mean, that's really that's the problem with the NBA. It is full blown. You are either ring or bust. Like that no man's land. I've been watching Chicago play in that no man's land since Derrick Rose left the team. Like you're pushing a decade at this point. It's just they end up in that 7th to 11th overall pick. They make the play-in tournament, but get eliminated early, but so they can't be put in the lotto, and that's basically the world Philly's living in right now. And you can't get to where you want to get to unless you have a destination that everybody wants to go to, like a Miami when you got Bosh and Wade and LeBron. But that's my 2 cents. But yeah, I think Embiid's. I definitely think he's done for this year. I think they're going to shut him down for the year.
Yeah, they should at this point. I don't think. I mean, we can pull up the standings, but I think they're out of it.
Oh no, they're 20 and 37. They're on the outside looking in right now.
So I mean, with a record like that, I know that they're 2.5 games out of the last playoff spot. It's not worth pushing for. They're not making a run this year. Shut Embiid down. Try to have a chance next year, but again, Paul George only getting older. You're just wasting Maxey. Embiid's another year older on that body. Like, it's not going to get any better for him.
No, you that's a guy you do game management for, and you just accept the fact he's not winning an MVP award or other awards because he doesn't hit the 65 game minimum. You just accept it. Hey, we need you to get off to a good start. We're going to play a lot of load management in the middle of the season, and then we'll warm you back up the last couple of weeks of the season, and hopefully we're in the playoffs and we could go full blown. But if you want,
that's what I think the Knicks are doing with Mitchell Robinson. Honestly, is they haven't brought him back, they haven't rushed him back. He's been practicing, he's been doing some stuff. I know he's itching to come back, but like they're like, dude, like.
The Knicks got to figure it out. They are 0-7 against the top 3 teams in the NBA.
I think it'll change. I think Mitchell Robinson is going to be a good change for this team because, to be honest, he is their starting center. Like they've been missing and playing well without their starting center all year. But he is their starting center, and Cat will be the 4, and they'll put Josh Hart on the bench. Is where the way it's going to go. You'll probably have Bridges, Anunoby, Brunson, Cat, and Robinson, but it's not worth rushing Robinson back because he's just too good defensively and offensive. Like on the offensive boards, he's the best in the league on offense. Rebounding on the offensive rebounding side of things. So the Knicks are going to get a guy that I think is going to help them be able to match up better, and I just like that they haven't rushed him into it. I like that.
That's the right way to go about it. I just think defensively, which is Thibodeau's bread and butter, they're not playing defense the way you'd like to see them play.
He's
defense.
one of their best defenders, though.
Well, that's what I mean. Like if he can make that difference because they need it because they Boston's dominated them, Cleveland's dominated them,
and he's a great pick and roll defender. He's a great defender overall, and one of the league's best rebounders. So he's going to help in all of those departments, and those are all departments that Tom Thibodeau loves. Like he salivates on guys that play defense like Robinson does.
I just need my Bulls to keep losing and somehow not make the play-in tournament because I'm sick and tired of watching them play in the play-in tournament. It's just getting eliminated every time. It's so frustrating. And like they have if they end up matched up against the Magic, they have no chance against Orlando. Like just no chance. So I would really like to see the Bulls start falling apart. Let Brooklyn maybe take that 10 spot. Hell, Philly, don't bench Embiid. Let him.
It's kind of sad that only 6 teams in the East are above 500 right now.
It's about on par for normal for the Eastern Conference. It's sad, but it's the reality of it. I mean, the West is in a much better position as always, and Phoenix is one of the best rosters in the league, and they're 4 games under 500. Like
they got a lot of dysfunction now.
Oh yeah, they do. But
to be honest, I think a lot of the dysfunction is KD. And you're talking to a guy who's a KD fan. Like I remember watching him when he played for Texas, salivating, thinking about how good he was going to be on the next level. Like I like Kevin Durant's game, I really do. But I don't think he's happy there. And when he's not happy and the team's not happy, well, guess what? Then nobody's happy. And I think this is the result you get. You're already hearing about where KD's going to go next year. I'm already listening to Stephen A. Smith talk about KD, you go here, you go there, maybe he'll even come to. I haven't even heard him mention the Knicks, and I'm like, no, we got something good going on here. Do not bring that. And I hate to say that because he's one of the best in the league.
Yeah, no, and KD is without a doubt, a first ballot Hall of Famer. right? Like KD is always has been one of the best players in the league since he's gotten in the league. It's just he definitely has this. He reminds me of a subtle Kanye West. Like kind of the way he talks and the way he kind of just acts like everybody's opinion's wrong unless they agree with him. Like just kind of similar. I think Kanye with how he's been the last couple of weeks, that might be an overstatement, but just some of the things he says and does, and the fact that he lets people get to him on social media, like I don't know, dude. Like ignore the haters, count your money, play your game. And when you retire, you get to do whatever you want. And, you might be the world's tallest businessman walking around, in a full suit and tie, running your own companies. Like, I mean, I don't know. At this point, I wouldn't want KD on the Bulls either. Like, I'd take 24-year-old KD on the Bulls, right?
Not
like,
30.
Not 34 or 35-year-old KD. And the only other NBA thing I have to say is Luka on the Lakers makes them a very scary basketball team. I don't think they're championship scary, but I think they are Western Conference Finals scary. I think this year's OKC's.
Listen, Luka led them to the finals last year, and without
anybody as good as LeBron.
So I mean, he had Kyrie, but I mean, still, like it was the Luka show, and you're gonna see something similar. He's a great player, and the Lakers just win again. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. The Lakers just keep being the Lakers.
And the worst part, I heard there's rumors coming out now that the GM from Dallas, one of the reasons he wanted him out of there was because he didn't like that Luka would drink beer after games and smoke a hookah. So Luka. Like, he didn't like that. And he thought that was a bad influence on the team. And the one guy that posted it was like, we have literally heard stories about how Michael Jordan would drink before games. He'd smoke cigars like it was his job. He'd pull all-nighters in Atlantic City before going to MSG and playing a game on a Sunday afternoon. Like, stop it, right? Like, the only reason it wasn't a bigger deal is because you didn't have social media, and yet you're only really hearing about this because of inside rumors, right? Like, nobody posted a video of it. There's no pictures, like... So his teammates obviously weren't trying to throw him under the bus. The coaching staff wasn't trying to throw him under the bus. And he was still the best player on the team. And then you see the weight that he lost just since he's been at the Lakers. Like, he stuck it to Dallas last night. I mean, it's Luka and LeBron combined with the pieces they have in Los Angeles is going to make them a very dangerous team. But I think this is OKC's year to get there. And SGA... I think that kid, as long as he stays healthy and continues to play the way he's playing, he's the lock for MVP this year.
He's playing like it for sure, but I just look at the Thunder and I'm waiting for them to take that next step. Remember we said last year they looked really great last year too, and I just said I think they're too young. Maybe last year's experience helps them get to that next level because, again, as the more playoff experience they get, the better they're going to get at it for sure. They're great players. So maybe you're right. Maybe this is the year they got some playoff experience last year. They felt the heartbreak of defeat. Maybe this year they kicked that other gear. Plus, listen, they went out. They got guys like Harkenstein, and they tried to shore up the roster in some ways. They're going to be a scary team. They're the league's best team right now, I think.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to be really, really scary come playoff time.
Well, I heard today too. SGA right now. If the season ended today, he'd become only the second player in NBA history to average 30-plus points a game while shooting 50+% from the field, and the only other player to ever do that, the greatest of all time, Sir Michael Jordan. So, like, that's the type of year he's having, right? Like, that's insane. When you think of some of the amazing players we've watched, right? Like, some of the greatest scorers just our lifetime, right? I mean, Matt, you go back to Wilt and you go back to Kareem and you go back to Bill Russell and some of these guys that just played in the paint and were basically bigger than every other person on the court. And even they didn't average 30+ a game and shot over 50%. It might be a shot clock error thing. That might be the difference.
I was going to say, Wilt definitely did.
Yeah, I mean, Wilt was shooting like 30 of 32 because he had every guy by 6 to 8 inches and just basically just
either that or, I mean, I think the game he scored like 100. He had like 20-something or more just in free throws.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, but a big man that could shoot free throws, what a concept. But anyway, yeah, no, basketball is still a long way to go, but I think the Lakers are you're gonna see more and more headlines with them as Luka and LeBron get more and more comfortable playing together.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's going to be fun to watch both the NHL and the NBA seasons here throughout the next couple months because, to be honest, this is what we got now. There's no more football until the draft anyway, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. The only story we didn't get to tonight, which, to be honest, I'm happy we didn't get to Justin Tucker.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, it just would have brought the show down, and we're not looking to bring it down. We're looking to bring it up. So, I've had a ton of fun here with you tonight. I hope you had some
Joey,
fun, too.
we miss you if you're listening, bud.
Joey, miss you. Hope to see you back next week. God, I think 2 more weeks after this. So it's next week and then the week after. And then the week after that, I'm going to be in Florida. So we'll get to talking.
I just hope it's not like the last time you were in Florida where it was like 20 degrees up here. Because I've really enjoyed the fact, like today, I walked in your house without wearing my big puffy coat. That was really nice. Really enjoyed it. Really would like to continue doing that. So
I was outside the other day in a t-shirt. It was great.
Yes, yeah, no. Anything below 65, you won't catch me in a t-shirt. But at least, well, I'll have a t-shirt, but at least have the spring coat on. Like I am not shorts and t-shirts until we're in the 70s, and even then, I run cold, man. I hate being cold, so I need that. Give me that 80s. Then I am in my happy place.
All right.
That seasonal depression is just shedding off of me. It's just shedding this week.
Well, listen, let's hope it keeps getting warmer and warmer. Thank you to everybody out there who stuck with us tonight. Please like, subscribe, share, follow, do all those free fun things for us. Because, again, we just appreciate it. Appreciate anybody who takes time to listen to. Again, we can't thank you guys enough. So that being said, Dave, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter or X, formerly known as Twitter, at David Hastings 23, Instagram DHastings23, and also our boy Joey. You can find him on Instagram, Joey Doth, DOTH, which stands for
Die on This Hill.
Boom. So we got to shout out Joey. Make sure you know where to find him as well. And Erich, you gotta let the good people know where to find you, find us, find Louie.
Find Louie on Instagram at Louie Ozzy Dude. You can find me on X at The Living Legend, or you can find us on Facebook or on YouTube at Die on This Hill. Until next week, we say don't be afraid to have an opinion and die on this hill with us.
Let it be known. Appreciate y'all.